In this video, I need to quickly identify any data which appears unusual. So for example, things like negative data points within a quantities column, data points which have zeros, or data points which are in fact blank. Let's have a look at some functions that we can perform to identify any of these unusual and possibly incorrect data points. Firstly, let's have a look at this quantity column and count how many negative values there are. I'm going to use a function called countIf, first pointing to the entire range of the information, and then providing the criteria, which is if it is less than 0, which is the same as negative. And to do this, I have to use double quotation marks followed by the less than symbol, and I'm going to simply type in 0 and close off those double quotation marks. As you can see, there are 27 items which are negative. If we want to count how many items in the bin range are actually 0, we can use the same function of countIf. However, this time, simply providing the criteria as being equal to 0. Do you notice that if you are asking for an exact criteria, you don't also need to type in the equal sign? And as you can see, there are 328 bins which have the label of 0. Lastly, let's have a look at counting blank data points. We're going to use the function called countBlank. And to do this, we simply select the entire range, and let's move all the way down to the bottom. And because the function is expecting to count only blanks, we don't need to provide it with a particular criteria. So there are 5 cells that are blank. Now the nice thing about doing this in functions like we've done over here is that these answers are dynamic and will update if this source data changes. Also, to do this in any other way, we might not get as much valuable information. For example, selecting the quantity column and looking into the status bar might give us information like the minimum of negative 625, which tells us that we do have some negative data points, but it doesn't tell us how pervasive the problem might be. We could use things like filter and sort, but if we don't want to rearrange the data set, then those options are not appropriate. A few other methods that I like in terms of being able to identify any anomalies is to either create a sparkline or in fact an entire chart. I'm going to create a sparkline in this cell to identify the extent and the magnitude of any negative data points. I'm going to move to the Insert tab and let's choose a line sparkline. We have to select all the data that we want included, and now we hit enter, and as you can see, we have several negative data points. And we can make these even more visible by moving to the Sparkline Tools Design tab and being sure to show any negative points. As we can see now, we can actually see all 27 of these points and get an idea of the magnitude. We might even use a column chart to get a better idea of the magnitude. If you're not interested in the magnitude, but just want to see the dispersion through the dataset, you can even use a win-loss, which simply shows positives above the line and negatives below the line. Another method is to simply create a giant chart of all of this information. However, we get the same information within an in-cell chart like a sparkline. But it is certainly a useful technique in identifying any strange trends within your data. So hopefully between all of these methods that we've learned, using functions like countIf and countBlank, and other methods like the status bar, sorting and filtering, or even creating visuals like a sparkline or an entire chart, we are able to get a high-level overview of information to see whether it looks correct. We'll see you in the next video.